You open your eyes every morning to a world that feels like it was designed for someone else. The light is too bright, the silence too loud. Your body aches in places you cannot name, and your mind replays conversations from years ago, searching for mistakes, rehearsing apologies to people who have long forgotten you existed. You tell yourself this is temporary, that happiness is just around the corner, that meaning will arrive once you fix yourself, once you become enough. But deep down, beneath the affirmations and the routines and the desperate scrolling through other people's curated lives, you know something darker. You know that this feeling, this constant hum of dissatisfaction, this background noise of suffering, is not a bug in your system. It is the system. You were not broken by life. You were built this way, built to suffer, built by a process that never once asked if you would be okay with the design. Evolution does not care about your happiness. It never did. It cares about one thing and one thing only: replication, survival long enough to pass on genetic material. That is the entire game. And you, with your anxieties and your existential dread and your inability to feel satisfied even when everything is objectively fine, you are the result of 4 billion years of that game being played without mercy, without pause, without any consideration for the quality of the experience it would create. Your ancestors were not the ones who were content. They were the ones who were terrified, the ones who saw danger in every shadow, who heard predators in every rustling leaf, who could never rest because rest meant death. The calm ones, the satisfied ones, the ones who could sit beneath a tree and simply be, they did not survive long enough to become your ancestors. You are descended from the paranoid, the anxious, the hypervigilant. Their fear is your inheritance. It is written into your nervous system, into the architecture of your brain, into the very chemicals that flood your body the moment you perceive a threat, real or imagined. And in the modern world, where threats are no longer lions but deadlines, where predators are not lurking in the grass but hiding in your inbox, your ancient machinery keeps firing, keeps flooding you with cortisol and adrenaline, keeps telling you that something is wrong, that you are in danger, that you must do more, be more, achieve more, or you will not survive. Except you will survive. You will survive in a state of chronic activation, chronic stress, chronic suffering, because your biology does not know the difference between a lion and a performance review. Your brain is a prediction machine, constantly trying to model the future based on the past, constantly searching for patterns, constantly attempting to keep you alive. But it does so at a cost. It makes you ruminate. It makes you replay every social interaction, analyzing tone and body language and subtext, searching for signs that you are not safe, that you are not accepted, that you are alone. Because in the ancestral environment, being alone meant death. Exile from the tribe was a death sentence. So your brain evolved to be exquisitely sensitive to social rejection, to the slightest hint that you might be losing status, losing connection, losing your place in the group. That is why a single critical comment can ruin your day. That is why you lie awake at night replaying a conversation from 10 years ago. That is why you feel a deep, aching emptiness even when surrounded by people. Your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do. It is keeping you alive by making you suffer, by making you constantly aware of everything that could go wrong, by never letting you rest, by never letting you feel that you are enough. And then there is desire, the engine of all human misery and all human achievement. You want things. You want love, success, recognition, beauty, power, peace. You want to feel whole. You want to feel like your life has meaning. And nature gave you desire not as a gift, but as a goad. Desire is the mechanism by which evolution ensures you keep moving, keep striving, keep reproducing. But it is designed never to be satisfied, not for long. You achieve a goal, and there is a brief moment of relief, a brief moment of satisfaction, and then the baseline resets. The hedonic treadmill keeps turning. You adapt, you habituate. What once brought you joy becomes neutral, becomes expected, becomes boring. And the wanting begins again, louder than before, more urgent than before. You think the problem is that you have not achieved enough, that you have not become enough, that you have not acquired enough. But the problem is the design. The problem is that satisfaction is not the goal. Movement is the goal. Striving is the goal. Suffering is the goal. Because a satisfied organism does not strive, does not compete, does not reproduce. A satisfied organism sits still, and stillness, in the logic of evolution, is death. Do you ever feel like consciousness was never meant to exist? Like the universe made a terrible mistake when it gave matter the ability to know itself? Right, I felt it too, if you understand. Because this is the deepest irony of all. You are not just a body driven by evolutionary imperatives. You are a mind aware of those imperatives. You are a creature capable of reflecting on its own condition, capable of asking why, capable of seeing the machinery that drives you and feeling horror at what you see. Most animals suffer, but they do not know they suffer. They do not lie awake at night contemplating the futility of their existence. They do not ask whether life has meaning. They simply live, driven by instinct, by hunger, by the blind momentum of biology. But you are different. You are cursed with awareness. Cursed with the ability to step outside the game and see it for what it is. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You cannot go back to the innocence of pure instinct. You are trapped in the prison of consciousness, aware of your own suffering, aware of its causes, aware that there is no escape except the one escape you are biologically programmed to avoid at all costs. This is the tragedy of the human condition. We are animals who became aware. We are creatures of flesh and blood and chemical reactions who somehow develop the capacity to ask questions that our biology cannot answer. We are meaning-seeking organisms in a universe that offers no inherent meaning. We are desperate for purpose in a cosmos that operates according to the blind, indifferent laws of physics and natural selection. We are walking contradictions, caught between the animal that wants to survive and reproduce and the consciousness that wants to know why. And there is no resolution to this contradiction. There is no synthesis. There is only the tension, the constant pull between what we are and what we wish we were, between the life we have and the life we imagine should be possible, between the suffering we experience and the peace we can never quite reach. Nature built you to survive, not to thrive. It built you to pass on genes, not to be happy. It built you with a nervous system that prioritizes threat detection over contentment, with a brain that remembers pain more vividly than pleasure, with a body that ages and breaks down and eventually fails no matter how well you care for it. It built you to want more than you can have, to fear more than you should, to suffer in ways that served your ancestors but serve you not at all. And it did this without malice, without intention, without any consideration for you as an individual. You are not the protagonist of this story. You are not even a character. You are a temporary configuration of matter, a brief eddy in the flow of entropy, a pattern that emerged from chaos and will return to chaos. And the only reason you exist at all is because your ancestors were just slightly better at staying alive long enough to reproduce than the countless others who were not. But here is where the darkness becomes beautiful. Here is where the tragedy transforms into something else. Because if you were built to suffer, if your pain is not a mistake but a feature, if your dissatisfaction is not a flaw but the fundamental design, then you are not broken. You were never broken. The game was rigged from the start, and you have been playing it perfectly. Every moment of anxiety, every bout of depression, every night spent staring at the ceiling wondering why you cannot just be happy, all of it is evidence that you are a fully functional human being, built by a process that prioritizes survival over satisfaction. And once you see this, once you truly understand that your suffering is not personal, that it is not your fault, that it is simply what it means to be a conscious animal in an indifferent universe, something shifts. The suffering does not disappear. It cannot disappear. It is woven too deeply into the fabric of what you are. But it loses some of its power. It becomes less like a prison and more like a condition. You stop asking why you cannot be happy, and more like a reality to be acknowledged. You stop asking why you cannot be happy, and start asking what you can do with this particular form of existence, this particular configuration of matter and awareness that you happen to be. You stop waiting for the day when you will finally feel complete, and start building a life in the space between desires. You stop fighting the fundamental nature of consciousness and start finding beauty in the very thing that makes you suffer. The awareness that sees the trap is also the awareness that can choose how to respond to it. The consciousness that knows it is driven by biology is also the consciousness that can decide which drives to follow and which to resist. You are not free from the game, but you are free within it. Free to create meaning even in a meaningless universe. Free to love even though love will end. Free to build even though everything built will crumble. Free to live as if it matters even though, in the grand scheme of cosmic time, it does not matter at all. This is not a message of hope. Hope implies that things will get better, that suffering will end, that there is a solution waiting to be found. There is no solution. There is only existence, with all its pain and beauty and contradiction. But there is something beyond hope. There is acceptance. There is defiance. There is the strange, dark joy of being a creature who knows it will die and chooses to live anyway, who knows it will suffer and chooses to love anyway, who knows the universe does not care and chooses to care anyway. You were built to suffer, but you were also built to endure, to create, to connect, to find flashes of meaning in the darkness, not because those flashes change the nature of the darkness, but because they are what you do with the time you have. They are how you respond to a universe that never asked if you wanted to exist. If you see beauty in the darkness of existence, you belong here. Subscribe and let's explore this strange, tragic, magnificent thing called consciousness together.